Hello. Hope everyone is good today. I don't know if anyone is on right now to come on live, but I haven't been live for a while, and I keep feeling like I want to do one on like frequencies and exosomes and stuff, but I've been putting it off, and I felt the need to do it today. And I don't really have anything written down or planned necessarily, as I usually don't. I like to just talk, let it come to me as I'm live. So that is what I'm going to do today. So if you don't know, I've talked before about the terrain versus germ theory. I have an episode on my podcast. If you want to go listen to that, I have a good half hour or so on terrain versus germs. And I'll have the link for my podcast below. I also have a couple videos on my YouTube about germ theory, terrain, that kind of stuff. And again, I'll put my YouTube link below, or those links are also available in my profile bio. So I'm not going to talk too in depth about those things because I feel like I've said enough about that, and a lot of people who follow me, I think, also understand that concept of germ versus terrain, that the terrain is what, the terrain of your body, the environment of your body is what truly impacts your state of health. So I wanted to step a little bit further into a territory that not as many people get yet. And I feel like it's a point that we're going to be moving into that we really do have to learn to understand, or more of us are going to understand it and be able to share that information with others. Now, what that is about frequency. The energy and frequency and how that impacts life and everything in existence. Now, I want to first say that that's not even a concept I've really thought about until this last year. So because it's impacted me so much this last year, just diving into everything, quantum physics, metaphysical frequency, chakras, this is huge in my life, especially when it comes to yoga. And I teach chakra flow series, chakra balancing, energy, which is essentially energy balancing, energy healing. But I'm not using my hands to affect your body. I'm guiding you for you to do it yourself, which I think is more powerful than going to any type of practitioner to do energy work for you. Guiding you to find that power yourself, I feel, is part of my work here. And I'm starting to step in to that because I'm also taking those chakra podcast episodes, meditations, and other lessons and practices and exercises to create a course about all of that, the chakras and the healing and the meditations, and how all that works into shadow work and really connecting with your soul purpose and why you're here. In raising your frequency is the ultimate end goal, but not in the surface level way that a lot of people talk about it, like eat to raise your frequency. Yes and no. And again, I've talked about that too. It's not as simple as eat these foods and your frequency will raise. It's not that cut and dry because the source, the quality, your intentions, all impact your frequency. It's not just directly eating a food and your frequency will raise. It's not that cut and dry and black and white. And so as I understand energy work more, intentions, food, nutrition, healing, shadow work, and how all of that affects your frequency, I'm starting to understand it in terms of viruses and illness as well. So that's what I want to talk a little bit more about. So in terrain theory, we speak to exosomes, and that viruses, I'm going to use the term virus and exosomes as kind of the same thing. So viruses are what modern medicine speak to these dead cells. But in terrain theory, they're called exosomes. And basically what you're doing, Andrew Kaufman has spoken of this, Thomas Cohen, if you want to dig deeper on those. Again, I had videos on my YouTube, but they were removed. Contagion myth is another good one. See, I'm not going to dig too deep into all of that. You can do that research on your own. I want to speak to it specifically to frequency, and that's what I'm getting to. So the concept that your process of detoxification creates, it creates dead cells in your system, and those are what your body detoxifies. Through breathing, largely breath is a huge release of toxic matter from within your system. About 70% of your toxic eliminations are through breath. And obviously through a digestive tract and sweating, and all of that releases eliminations. Eliminative waste, anything that your body can no longer use. That's our detoxification process. And we call those dead cells that are it's part of your cellular makeup that get broken down and creates these dead cells that the body detoxes. That's what terrain tells that viruses technically are, because viruses have not been isolated, purified, and replicated according to conscious postulates. And modern medicine can argue all they want about all of that. I'm stating what I understand and how I understand it. So frequency comes in because I have come to understand that our detoxification process is triggered in a way, amplified by frequency, such as 5G. Now, that can be considered good and bad, however you want to view it. I'm going to use 5G as the example. However, it's by far not the only thing that triggers detoxification. Any type of exposures. Again, I did a video last year that talks about the 1918 flu pandemic and the correlation of illnesses since then in regards to radio waves and internet frequencies and other things that have impacted our bodies. So this has been a long journey of me researching into these things and to understand the direct impact of frequency to the physical body. So when we understand that energy is everything, energy, frequency, and vibration, and I believe it was either Einstein or Tesla, I want to say it was Einstein, that said the quote, if you want to understand the universe, think of it in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So the physical body is only manifested based on frequency. And we can look at that in terms of the chakras as well. So the lowest chakra here, the red one, which is the root chakra, it's the densest color. So we see the color correlations. So red, and this is in regards to the rainbow, the color, when you see a rainbow as well, this is always the most prevalent color you usually see, and it gets more translucent, you could say. Like often these high colors you're not seeing in a rainbow, or they're very faint. It's because red is the densest and the lowest frequency. So it's easier, it's for its physical manifestation. Okay? So the higher the vibration is, which is kind of, in chakras, we see it as a wheel, like a spinning wheel. So you can think of the frequency or the vibration kind of as the speed at which it vibrates. So because the red is slower, or a lower sound vibration, it's the densest and manifests more solidly in our 3D matrix. So the same goes for our physical bodies. At our lower frequency vibrations, that's how that's how our forms manifest as a physical body. Once you start to understand kind of aliens and interdimensional beings and all the different kinds of beings that exist, angels, everything like that, they don't hold the physical body form like we do because they resonate at a much higher frequency vibration. And that's where sound healing comes in, frequency and vibrational healing. Again, something I'm diving into a little bit more, using sound bowls and things in meditations. It's because it affects us on a very cellular and DNA level and at our pure energy. So when we get exposed to a new frequency, a new vibrational frequency, a different level frequency, which 5G, I believe, is 60 hertz. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's 60 hertz, which is higher, I believe, than the human body has been exposed to before. So what this is doing on a very basic cellular level is altering our frequency, enhancing a level of detoxification and upgrading, altering DNA. Now, when we get into the fear paradigms of conspiracies, that's all very scary, and we see how it's altering the body, and 5G is very much affecting our bodies. Now, we can look at it as good or bad. Is it harmful to the human body? Yes, in that someone who is already in a weakened state of health, a weakened terrain, is going to have a much harsher reaction to that changing in frequency. That's where you're going to see a harsher detox, harsher symptoms. That's where we see the issues with breathing, because that all changes our breath and the lungs. This is kind of our life force center. So that's why this respiratory issue is so prevalent in many people. If you're congested in any way, it's accelerating your body's need to detox and get rid of all of the junk, while simultaneously shifting our frequency. And I'm so glad my friend Paula had a comment about she had the virus, but she also mentioned that she saw it as a spiritual awakening in a way. Or I think she called it a spiritual upgrade. Paula, I hope you're listening to this and you correct me on what exactly you said. In that it's affecting different vibrational beings in different ways. So someone who is of a lower vibration, this has nothing to do with intelligent or anything like that, strictly vibrational speaking, someone who is at a lower vibrational state, getting this virus frequency altering illness, we'll call it, this changing of frequency is going to affect the lower vibrational being in a different way. And it's going to be more damaging to their system. And those are the individuals, for the most part, that we are seeing pass away because they are not able to handle the level of DNA shifting that's happening with the changing of frequencies on the planet. Now, this is very complex to try to explain in this way, but as a planet, we are undergoing a process of shifting frequency to a higher level. Shifting our frequencies, in turn, shifting our consciousness, elevating our level of consciousness as humans. We're shifting into a higher state than humans have been at for a very long time. I believe we've been at a much higher level of consciousness in past. And now we need to come back into that power and that higher conscious state of being after a very long period of time of being suppressed by deep state, cabal, elites, whatever you want to call them. Our human has been suppressed. So a lot of these things can be good and bad, but I don't like to label them as good or bad, because often the things that we experience in life that are considered bad are some of the greatest opportunities for us to grow and have leaps in our frequency and consciousness. Such as, I'm going to use Russell Brand as an example because I really love how he's shifted himself and I've loved his journey. Because he was very sucked into kind of this Hollywood thing, and I think he still is to a point. But with addiction and all of that ego-driven Hollywood stuff, along with his addiction that took over his life for a very long time, through that, he was able to pull himself out of it. And he's had a beautiful shift in his own frequency and his own consciousness. If you want to look into his YouTube page, I suggest you do. He has some beautiful conversations, very open conversations as well, with people who are completely opposite of him. I particularly enjoyed his conversation with Candace Owens because they're very different in their approach to life and their views, like politically and everything. But aside from that, that's a good example of someone who was at a very low frequency, but through that process, they are able to shift themselves and shift their frequency in order to transform into the higher potential that they always were able to be. We all have that higher potential. We all do. We all have a very powerful potential as humans, souls, remembering that our soul comes from source consciousness and source being. So we all have the same potentials. possibilities as humans and souls. But we're all having our own separate journeys. But we do share our frequencies as well. And this is when I first started noticing last summer the connection between masks, distancing, and frequency. That's where it first connected with me. Wearing a mask shifts your breath. It alters your breath into more of a shallow breath. That makes a kind of, for lack of a better term, I'm just going to say it more blatantly of it. It lowers your vibration in a sense by being in a more survival state of shallow breathing. And staying within a certain distance of people also lowers the vibration in that we aren't sharing our frequencies with community. Where that sharing of our vibration and our frequency, our heart frequency, the toroidal field, is our emanation of our frequency from the heart center. So every single one of us emits a vibrational frequency. You all have a vibrational signature based on your current frequency. And it's often emanated from the heart center and creates this kind of field. So when you are within another person's field, if you are of a higher frequency, can also elevate that individual's frequency to meet with you. It's a very powerful thing once you understand how that works. And I noticed very quickly how humanity's vibration began to lower in those who were very diligent about masking, distancing, and staying home. Because you aren't sharing in the heart energy and love energy of those around you, those in your life, and community. So this is why I like coming on these without a plan of what to talk about, because I end up going down roads that I didn't expect to come down. I think it's so important for us to understand that we're not just a physical body. And that's why when I talk about nutrition, I always talk about connecting to your intuition, connecting and clearing chakras and your energy blockages. Again, the chakras. Clearing your traumas, your shadow work, energy healing. It's never just physical or nutrition. It's the symbiotic relationship of your body, physical form, the mind, the emotional and mental state, and the soul, spirit, the connection to source, your state of consciousness. That's where wellness really comes from, and health. And as long as the medical industry focuses only on the physical, they will never truly be leading you towards true health and wellness. That's just how I see it. There needs to be a blend of all everything that affects your wellness. Like I just said, the body, the mind, the emotional state, and the soul. It needs to all be worked together to create your higher frequency state of being. Putting band-aids of medicine, masking because you're so scared of getting sick, or you're convinced that you're harming others. Being in this perpetual fear state will continue to keep you in a lower vibration. And until you let go of those fears and understand that we are the creator of our own frequency. We can help others in raising their frequency, but ultimately that responsibility is within ourselves and not anyone or anything outside of us. We are the creators in and of ourselves. And I think that's a good place to leave it. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.